digital governance. And occasionally I use the word digital space governance, what is cyberspace governance, because there are no perfect words. But the compromise is a digital governance, because people start using this word, including IGF. Okay, first of all, before we get into the governance, let's look into the economy. Because in the real world, how big is this economy, whatever this segment? If it's big, if it's $1 trillion, people do pay attention. If it's $1 million, people ignore. Like, for example, this internet economy is, if you focus in the domain name industry, okay, it's $1 billion. 3, 4, 5, 6 billion dollar. Compare that one, global economy is roughly $100 trillion. To be precise, about between 80 to 90. But you can think about $100 trillion global altogether. Then digital economy or the AI economy is sort of somewhere between $1 to $10 trillion within the next 10 to 15 years. It's a big one. Like 5% or 10% of our global economy. Compared to that one, internet economy, in particular domain name industry, is $1 billion. About 0.1% of the those digital or the AI or the IoT economy. This is the reason why we pay so much attention to the AI economy. And we are wondering, does blockchain economy become one of those $1 trillion economy? That's something remains to be seen. We don't know. There is a possibility, but we just don't know as of today. Okay? And then do we have anything else among those this economy other than IoT, data, and AI? We may come up some more later. Okay, but the way we identify as of today, those are the ones which have a potential to be a $1 trillion industry economy. Okay, I'm going to talk in this order, and if I have time, I may comment on appendix, or I'm going to introduce the specific component, including AI governance, and cybersecurity governance, and the blockchain governance, which are going to be lectured today, today and tomorrow. Okay. First of all, internet governance definition, you can find in WSIS or WGIG. And this one was revised somewhat during the Net Mundial several years ago. And it's a fairly stable. So by now we know what is the internet governance. Because within the last about 15 years, we didn't change much. Okay? And we have a fairly good consensus. Good part of this one is through 15 years, we develop a multi-stakeholder. Under those definition is developed through the multi-stakeholder approach, which is a very good news. So the internet governance, yes, we developed the multi-stakeholder approach. And we use this multi-stakeholder approach to develop this definition. Then why I'm showing this one? not the digital governance definition, because we don't have it yet. And I hope we can have one set up within the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah, this may be a good time. Check your telephone. Make it the off or the. Okay, and but so is the many component of digital governance, such as we'll have a presentation lecture this week on AI governance and the cybersecurity governance and the blockchain governance. Again, we don't have those consensus definition yet. Okay, we have a sample of those definitions, but it doesn't really go beyond. Means still in the early stage, just like internet governance in 20 years ago or 15 years ago. Okay, some are very important and confusing those picture diagram. I'm going to explain both in the top down and the bottom up. Okay, first of all, we have those internet here, okay, and we have a other network or non-IP network to be precise. Okay, and when we talk about the internet governance, we discuss only this part. We don't discuss on this part. But for digital governance, anything other than internet governance, we have to discuss on both. And which one is bigger or more, has a more impact, it depends on your perspective. Okay, the message is our community, internet community, doesn't have much impact to here. They have their own those system to develop and operate and govern. Okay. Then this line is supposed to be a big line because the internet infrastructure support those three and also support here too. Likewise, other network also support not just those three, support also the AI and a lesser degree of the data. Okay, and the same argument goes through the between this line, between the digital economy and those box, and the digital society and those box. Again, like for example, AI has a interface to the digital economy and also the digital society. Okay, and the security is the same. Security impact has an interface to the digital economy and also digital society. So this picture, if I want to draw, it will be too complex, so I just made it simple. So when you read this diagram, like we know for sure privacy. or the human rights in general belong to here, okay? Not to the digital economy. Then others like security, this one has for sure has an interface to the digital society, but also has a interface to the digital economy. And which one is a primary? It's causing a lot of problems. So who is going to dictate on security governance? Is this group, digital society group, sort of dictate the security governance, or the digital economy dictate security governance? It's something, so sometimes they have those conflict. And we have those big issue. Especially among this security in a digital society, in particular government. To be more precise, military and intelligence organization, like NSA. They may have a more strong influence on the security governance. And probably Enkett is going to explain in the next lecture on those why this security governance is so difficult. And we are in a critical phase now. Okay, next one is let's compare to the digital space or digital cyberspace with the internet. So the network infrastructure-wise, we have an additional network, non-IP network. And this one is something we just don't know how to handle. We know how to handle the IP internet. Okay, with that's about 20 years experience. But we just don't know like a broadcasting network and telecommunication network, IoT network. It's very different, those networks. And sometimes we have those problems coming up. Like all of a sudden in a content, Hollywood, we start making those regulation. And then internet community is sort of fighting against those Hollywood. The reason is that we just don't know the broadcasting network. Then technically the problem is the broadcasting network is merging to the internet. If it doesn't merge, it's okay. But the problem is it is merging. Like when you watch a television, do you watch a television by air or through the cable or through the internet? So the increasing you accessing through the internet, then we start having a problem. Who is going to govern? Does the broadcasting community or the internet community? Okay. And application, again, this one, we start having a major problem and the impact because of machine-to-machine communication. Internet, originally, it's really those communication between the people. Okay, and today, for example, IoT, as I gave a lecture last year, today we have 4 billion internet users, human beings, and we have more machine connected to the internet, somewhere between the 5 to 10 billion. So like in 10 years, like we may have 6 or at most 7 billion human internet users. Then probably 100 billion to the 1 trillion machine users, machine connect. Then the nature of this network or governance has a different meaning. And are we ready? If you look at those internet governance, is a principle, definition, whatever, they tend to focus on the human users, not on the machine. And thus we have to transform, and this fundamental transformation is always difficult. Okay, to make it more complicated, we have those digital space, or you may call the cyberspace. Okay, and if we operate here, still it's okay. We can do all those definition or on those internet, because we are in the pure digital space. Then we have those the real world, the real space. Then the reality is today almost every application is here, the mixed space. Then who should dictate? This group or this group? In the case of those internet application, we tend to say like, yes, we are the one to coordinate or control. And sometimes this group, the real world group, they say, no, we are the one to control. I'll give you an example. Do we have a human rights governance? Just tell the people, okay, we should have a human rights governance. Then you will get a very negative response. What do you mean? We have a human rights, those activity and the coordination in the last about 100 years or 200 years. And we, internet guys, you're new guys in the block. So you have to follow what we have been doing. You have to follow. UN define the human rights. So that we have to follow this UN definition. That's what this group is saying. Likewise, those are military. Okay, and so sometimes we have a problem. Then in many cases we in a mixed space. So nobody is in control. The typical issue is privacy. There's a human rights, starting from UN, human rights group think it's their issue. But today, many of those issues in privacy is happening in digital space. Like Facebook and Google, they are the ones who are showing up. So we have to coordinate. But this coordination between real space and digital space is very difficult. And we just don't know how to do it. So you have this, today, we are sort of doing in a case by case. In the case of internet governance, yes, we do know. In the case of the cyber security governance, whatever we are doing in the internet governance approach is not working. So they took a very different approach. Start from the principle, norms, and laws. And even then, it's not working too well. And she's going to explain in the next lecture on this one. So the message is, in reality, is mostly a mixed space, and which makes things very difficult. But that's the real reality we have to face. Okay, there are several of those characterization. What's happening now? The first one is we are focusing more on a digital space. For example, if you look at the newspaper, whatever, you see so many things on AI. have you ever seen any issue on a domain name in a newspaper or television? Almost none. Okay? So we have to face this reality. Even though we sort of grown up in internet governance in the last 20 years, today most of those major issues are in digital space, not on the internet. So how do we do it? Those imbalance. So shall we develop those new governance? And then what shall I do meantime until we come up with something good? Or can we use those whatever we develop in the internet governance on the digital space governance? And yes and no. So now we are sort of doing a trial and error. So what we do is divide and conquer. Okay, in each segment. Are we talking about the AI now? Okay, then let's focus on the AI governance approach. And the cybersecurity, okay, let's focus on that one. And if it's IoT, okay, let's look into. So we sort of look into the divide and conquer. That's the approach we are taking. But eventually, we have to come up with a sort of a digital governance, because all those AI governance and cybersecurity governance and other governance, they are overlapping. Sometimes the overlapping is more than 50%. Then you just cannot handle separately. Okay, but again, they are not, if they are superset subset, if the cybersecurity is a subset of AI, then it's easy. Just do what AI. Or it's the other way around, again, it's easy. But they are just overlapping, not the subset or superset, which makes things very difficult. Then the digital governance is still in a very early stage. Okay, that takes quite a while before we sort of come up. Okay, this is the stable state now. Probably we are looking into the 10, 20 years. To make it worse, they are big economy. We are very fortunate in internet governance. When we really started back in the 1970s, okay, it was very small. And that was a commercial. They didn't pay any attention whatsoever. They started paying attention in this century, not in the last century. So we have enough time to come up with our prototype for internet governance. But in AI security, IoT, blockchain governance, no. It's a big economy already. So the commercial entity tend to dictate because their stake is so huge. And so we have to take a somehow different approach, whatever it is. And then things we just don't know is whatever we develop under the internet governance is applicable to those digital governance. And yes or no. Some of them, yes. Some of them are not. You have to find out each one of them. And then it's very expensive. Suppose if we have a consensus, oh yeah, of course, internet governance approach will work, including the multi-stakeholder approach. Then if that would pick up a consensus, and if we do it, and if it's fail, then it's bad. Then we may end up having we cannot have a governance. Then it's worse than not to do it. We could have waited. And this one in each segment, we have to do independently. So that APSIG and other events, we sort of try to find it out. What are they? so that we can sort of start moving. So if you guys are serious, you have to do two things. Like this kind of forum, look into several governance, several areas, and we can sort of compare. Then you also have to go to the, for example, AI governance meeting. Okay, next one around here in Asia is next October, next fall, we'll have one meeting in Tokyo. And you'd better go over there. They are all those AI specialists. Okay, then the way they discuss, even terminology is very different from this group. But that's the sort of things we have to do. And then many things we developed won't work. Like a multi-stakeholder approach. This one was developed in last about 40 years, depending on how you define. And we thought we came up a fairly stable system. Unfortunately, this one is focusing on a domain name. So the domain name or something similar, it works very well. But in some other area, usually what I show is like a cyber warfare, military operation. Do you think in a military operation they do the multi-stakeholder approach? Or the surveillance, like NSA, they do the open documentation approach? No chance. So they have to approach very differently. Okay, then are we ready for multi-stakeholder approach, or it's those replacement to be used for those governance? Okay. And the stakeholder is also substantially different. So we have to go through those exercises. Even like a multi-stakeholder approach for the global issue and the domestic issues are very different. For example, in your country, okay, you have to deal with some internet governance or whatever in your country, in a domestic issue. What's the government role? It's very different from the international. In an international government, we have so many governments, so they are not dominant. But in a domestic issue, government tends to be has a dominant position. So, for example, equal footing won't work. Then you have to come up with a multi-stakeholder approach for domestic issue. Then once you accomplish that one, then you have to think, does multi-stakeholder approach work in, say, like AI or blockchain or security? So it's a lot of work. And one minor comment is in the USA and in a lesser degree in Europe. When we say the cybersecurity or cyberspace, they tend to imply the cybersecurity. It's coincidental. It doesn't have to be that way. Like one of the reasons, say like US DOD, they say that cyberspace as a fourth or fifth those element of a military coverage. So in the USA, like a cyberspace means almost a cybersecurity. Then the British tend to harmonize with the USA, so they take the same approach. So that influenced the Europe as a whole. And so that's a sort of given. So if we want to cover the many areas, not just in the security area, better to avoid using a terminology, cyberspace. This is a reason, even though academically cyberspace may be the best word, I sort of start picking up a detail. Then fortunately, IGF and many other organizations sort of start agreeing using those digital space instead of cyberspace. And this one, I guess I commented already, so probably I don't have to do here. Okay, there are many issues. This one probably we can discuss during the question and answer. I just introduced here. First of all, among those many those governance, we have 4, 5, 6 AI, cybersecurity, and data governance. Is any of those a commonality? And if you have a commonality, it's better. Then first of all, let's define those a common part. Then those are specific, those different parts, let's define later, additionally. That's something we don't know. And if you look at carefully, even though we say like a governance on AI, cybersecurity, and data, IoT, they are substantially different nature. Like, for example, cybersecurity is not an industry. It's not the economy. It's rather the other way around. We have to spend the money. If we don't do the cybersecurity properly, we end up spending $1 trillion. So that we sort of try to minimize on spending. Whereas the IoT or data governance, they just add the industry. They add the literally $1 trillion to $2 trillion, $3 trillion, they add. Okay, you have those are new industry. Then AI again is the different from the cybersecurity and those data and the IoT economy. AI tend to do doesn't have its own industry. It's rather give a value addition. Then the challenge we have is AI try to influence all those industries. So they end up those value addition more like $5 to $10 trillion within the next 10 to 20 years. Biggest in terms of value addition. Okay. And then C is there's a legal framework. How do we do it between the international legal framework and the domestic legal framework? Because they are the way the impact is substantially different. And we want them to be harmonized. And I hope we have so many lawyers here, so I hope some of them can explain to us this is the current status and what will happen in the future. Standardization, it's a mess. We are fortunate on the internet. When we did start standardization on the internet around 1970, okay, so we have about 50, 60 years, nobody pay attention. So that we can really establish a system. then we can spend enough time before it's usable. Then we did very much of those in a Californian style, utopian style. But today, no. Standardization is dictated by the commercial. Because it's a big money involved. Either standardization go this way or that way, or make a difference in the company's profit or revenue substantially. So the once the industry dictate is tough. It's very tough, especially for us. Like I just go to any standardization meeting, either AI or IoT, whatever. Okay, you can see all those major companies, other major countries. Almost none from the developing country or small companies. Because you have to allocate so much resources on which you cannot afford it. But we need those linkage. We should we should know what's going on the standardization, and if we have some idea, we should be able to contribute. Like go back to your country and ask them, like how much your country is involved in, say, like AI standardization. The answer, I can guarantee you, none. Then in the meantime, standard will be developed. International standard. Or the industry de facto standard. Okay, and so that's something I guess we want to discuss more at the APSIG in some time. Probably next year, I guess we may address those issues. And over the meantime, I guess some people may raise an issue. Okay, especially on like AI, IoT, blockchain, those areas is very active. Those standardization is going on outside of internet, and then this is something I don't know. My presentation is pretty much on a technology-centric area because of my background. But we also have a human-centric area. Okay, even when we talk about those digital governance, and how do we approach? Okay, the remark I guess we did already. Digital and cyber. I just list up those. And sometimes digital works much better. You say digital divide, you don't say the cyber divide, for example. But digital governance, like cyberspace governance, sounds much better, more natural. And then like those governance, like in the case of internet, we are in a sense fortunate because it's very much about operational governance at the operational level. How do we operate? Like IANA domain names, IP address. But like a cybersecurity, that approach won't work. And so we sort of, AI is again same thing. So we try to come up with principles, and then we try to come up with norms, and hopefully we come up with a law. And we are stuck at the norms now. In the case of AI, we are still in the phase of principles. Didn't go to the norms yet. Security, yes, we are going to norms, and NK is going to explain very in detail. And the AI and the cybersecurity is a sort of a pervasive. It covers the every aspect, every areas. And the telecom, seems we have to pay some attention to the telecom. About 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we thought the internet take over everything, including the telecom. But that's not the case. Do you know why? Smartphone. Like now, like internet is dictating what smartphone is dictating. And it seems to be a smartphone start dictating. Then they are sort of, they think the internet is just part of this one component. That's their approach. And how do we do it between this telecom-centric and internet-centric approach? We have been having this challenge or problem fighting in the last about 40 years. And there is many conference and organizations. So I know you guys, most of them working on the internet governance. So the organization you know is ICANN and IGF and ISOC. But once you get into the digital governance, it's a whole different, much bigger area with many conferences and organizations, and then coming up a new one all the time. Then how do we do it? Again, this one we have to watch out, okay? If you are rich, big company, and or the rich country, you don't have any problem. Okay, that's important. Let's allocate the resource. How much we need to allocate? Probably 5 people. Probably $5 million would do it. Okay, let's do it. Big company can operate that way. But a small company or small country coming up with those $5 million is not that trivial for those conference, which meet a couple of times a year. Then we have a multiple of those. Even worse, what is coming? That information is missing. It's not easy to catch. So that this is another challenge. And sometimes you have to go, if it's important, what happens is, sometimes it happens. I saw the one Japanese case. One Japanese company, do you know what they did? In order to follow up this one standardization activity, they set up a branch in Silicon Valley. And the staff, there are about 5 people. They're all working in full time. Then with the annual budget of say like $10 million, just go back to your country and ask us as a company, can you do such an investment? But in order to be viable entity, you may have to. That's the real world. And what else? There's a main article, you can just see it, and the references. And the appendix, I just sort of gave a one-page description of each governance. Okay, you may just take a look at AI governance, then data governance, and we had a lecture 2 years ago. No, last year or 2 years ago at the APSIG. And AI governance, yes, we will do this afternoon. Danit is going to give a lecture. And IoT governance, yes, I gave last year. So you can see the video. Digital economy governance, yes, we did. It's sort of we did once or twice at the APSIG, but it's not easy to get a lecturer. And the cybersecurity governance, yes, we are going to have the next lecture, this one. Then the cyber society governance, this is something I don't know how to approach. Or is it worthwhile to approach this way? Or we have to take a very different approach. And then we may have some more. Like environment and education, maybe some of those important areas for us to address. And I don't know. I'm still looking for somebody who can give a lecture so that we can find it out. And the question I made my comment, does it make sense to have a human rights governance? And does it make sense to have a privacy governance? Or and see those the difference. And then this D, this is kind of, since I'm not familiar in this area, I'm not those lawyer. So what does lawyer nor the political science? What does it mean by those governance? The word like internet governance, or those principles, norms and the laws. In the case of AI, we had a couple of those principles, and we developed one 2 years ago. Last year it was pretty good. And this afternoon, Jake is going to explain the principle developed by the Google on AI. So the AI is sort of pretty much in this phase, very active. And does it become like an internet governance style? Those are principle or something else? Then the norms. This is even security area. This is a hot issue now. So many those meetings, so many of them, and Enke is going to explain. And then eventually we may, in some area, we may come up with those international laws. Then we are in a good shape, but probably not. Then why digital governance now? Well, why we want to address now, not 10 years ago or 10 years later? It's something we have to think about. Because any of those important issues, there's a right time to engage. If you do too early, you don't go anywhere. Then you may end up those failure. Then the later starting at the same topic again may be very difficult. And when it's too late, again you have a problem. You have to sort of synchronize what's going on in the world. And moving target. And you should be very, you should know. Okay. I guess I used more than 45 minutes. Question, no, not question, discussion. If you have any comment, would you come to the microphone and state your name, come to the microphone, stand up, and the lineup.
Thank you, Professor. I'm Santosh Segdal from Nepal Internet Society, chapter president. Glad to be here and glad to listen to you. It was, for me, it was very exciting, alarming, and opening up more spaces. I start with your last question, why we need the discussion now. And I was thinking why we need digital governance now. Is it not possible for the internet governance to cover and widen its areas to cover these new areas? Whether we discussed that already, this internet governance cannot govern those areas, and we need more space to govern new areas. Maybe we can think about that. That is one issue. Another is, I like the way the discussion has been framed around, we started with the communication between humans, but now the communication is more between the machines, and maybe we want to govern that area.
Say again?
We started the communication, internet, for the communication between humans, but now the communication is more between the machines, and maybe we are thinking about the threat, how we are going to govern that communication between the machines in the coming days, when there will be a billion or trillion machines communicating in between. Maybe we are thinking about the digital governance for that period of time. And about the human rights perspective in the digital area, human rights governance.
Okay, so let's stop there. You raised the two issues already.
I wanted to raise this because I'm from the human rights.
Okay.
I wear the human rights coat because of that. Maybe, may I?
Okay.
Okay.
But the people waiting.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Which country you're from?
I'm from Nepal.
Nepal, okay. Why digital governance now? The second, the related question is, why we spend so much time in internet governance? So why don't we use those internet governance, those framework to address those issues? Okay, let me comment. I'm very happy on the progress on IGF. IGF, at the end of IANA transition on the Net Mundial, I thought the IGF is over. No life left. But somehow the core group worked so hard to transform or reinvent itself to be a viable entity. So if you look at this year, last year, AI is one of the major topics. Okay, unthinkable, even a few years ago. Okay, the challenge we have is any of those governance close to the internet governance, like IoT. Yes, expanding internet governance may work because the difference is fairly minor. Okay, only the major difference is one of them is human to human, the other one is mostly machine to machine. Okay, yes, we thought we should. Wherever we can expand internet governance approach, just let's do it. In the case of AI, I watched the last year's, there's over 10 workshops on AI, over 10%. Proven is that there is an AI community which is bigger than the internet governance community. Then I was watching those core member of this AI governance community. Do they come here? IGF? Not much. They rather want to discuss over there. And just do they come over here to introduce what they are doing. So we have to be careful what domain expertise we have. And there is in any other area, there is those group. And so it's matter more of the collaboration will work. So if we IGF or Internet Governance Committee, if we pretend, oh yeah, we can take on AI governance, since it's a governance, then we may be making a big mistake. So we have to be very careful. And then we have to go where this issue is really discussed and being solved. It doesn't matter if it's Internet Governance Community or AI community. Okay. Then machine-to-machine communication. I give you an example again. This I did last year. Okay, this is very relevant to us. IoT device, now it's say like over 10 billion. Then eventually become 100 billion and 1 trillion. And many of those devices cost only a couple of bucks. $1, $2, $5. Okay. Typically developed, manufactured in a developing country. Because developed country, they cannot make those the cheap one, inexpensive one. Then okay, you said from Nepal. Okay, go to some manufacturing facility in Nepal. Okay, you have to do a software update in order to make it secure. You think they can handle? And the second, in order to do the software update on those machines, $2 machine, okay? How much does it cost? And who is going to pay? And this is a developing country is a major stakeholder because they are providing over 90% of those devices. You are from Bangladesh, right? Oh, yes. Bangladesh, Nepal, India. Oh, yeah. South Asia, you are the major the provider. And the answer is very simple. No, we don't have money. We are barely making the manufacturing process. And this is a challenge we should address because most of the people here are involved. And you're involved much more so in the coming years. So I'm not answering to your question, okay, but I'm sort of giving it as a challenge we are facing and we should pay attention. Yes, please.
Thank you, Professor. My name is Mohammad Abdul Haq. Family name is Onu. I'm Secretary General of Bangladesh Internet Governance Forum. Professor, my question is, who will decide standardization of AI? And next question, AI and security overall wall. You mentioned is remarked your slide. So AI and security is same thing? This is my question.
Say again.
AI and security.
Oh.
This is my two questions.
Security.
Yeah.
Okay. AI standardization is maybe very different from the internet standardization. Because the internet standardization, you have to follow, otherwise it won't work. It's not interoperable. So we are very keen on the standardization on the internet. AI is very different. Okay, so far what we have set like at the ISO, if you are interested, go to the Google ISO, International Standard Organization, and the AI, then you can get a couple of those documents. They are more of those informational standard. So in a sense, it's not a really a standard to be enforced. Okay, then do we go beyond? Sometimes we do. Okay, if we do, problem is not won't be an international standard, rather industry standard, because it's a commercial industry is so strong. So they decide And they don't wait for the international standard. And they don't have to wait. Once they decide, and they have to, people have to follow. And that's what's happening. So the, again, it's a bit different one. And I guess AI and cyber security, I guess we should pay a very good attention because AI is both of them is a very pervasive. Impact almost every spectrum very seriously. But AI tends to give a value addition. Any of the product with AI or without AI, price is different by the twice or 10 times or 100 times. Security is a negative. Okay, how much are we going to lose this year or in 5 years? In this space, like for example, somebody is going to give the Nadia, the Teddy is going to give a cyber crime. And we saw the forecasting. So like if we go in this space, we may lose $1 trillion because of cyber crime. Then, so that we should collaborate together in order to minimize the loss. So they tend to go the more, so that I'm saying this sort of a societal rather than economy. We have to spend money, just like a tax. But we don't want to spend too much, like spending $1 trillion on a cyber crime is something we really want to avoid. I feel so many ways to spend $1 trillion. But that's what we are facing. So again, those are two are very important, very pervasive, but very sort of opposite. Now they very complementary. They influence each other in a positive way and also in a negative way. I feel about the hacking with the AI technology. It's awful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Satish.
Thank you, Satish Babu here for the record. Since I come from ICANN, I would like to raise two questions. The first is, in practice, digital governance devolves to policy making, which is what ICANN does for the most part. So can you differentiate between where digital governance ends and where policy formulation starts? Or how does it fit? That's the first question. The second question...
Oh, no, in which area?
Generally speaking. So if you take say the numbers and names and numbers, most of the work that ICANN does is policy formulation. And the staff administers the policy. So is staff doing the governance or is the community doing the governance? So where does policy formulation fit into the digital governance umbrella? The second question is, one thing, this is a very interesting presentation, thank you for that. But one thing I find missing, one phrase that I find missing is the multi-stakeholder model. Now, where does that fit into this digital governance umbrella? Because we keep talking about it. So just to kind of clarify for the participants. Thank you.
Okay, like policy formulation, I guess we are sort of in a digital governance area, we are sort of exploring. And probably it's better to listen to what Enken is going to give a lecture in the next one, rather than me. She's going to give a specific area on cybersecurity, how the communities are struggling to come up something tangible. And then in general, in other area, I don't know, Danity may comment on AI, and probably that may be better than the phone. And also the Jake on AI. So I'm going to skip. Okay, I have my own idea, but probably here it was 2 lectures, and 3 lectures today. Okay, this happens to be all of them today. And the multi-stakeholder model, and I guess we should. Okay, we have a very interesting development on a domain name in the last 20 years, and which is working. And now is a good time to go back to the, how did we start this multi-stakeholder approach? Okay, in the case of internet governance, yes, we started in 97. And I guess if I have time, I'm going to give a lecture on that one. You can see my PowerPoint in the website already. Because I was, I started involved in the internet multi-stakeholder approach around 1980s. And I know what's going on, what happened in the 1970s. So I can give a lecture. And one good news is global warming. Probably theirs is just about the best multi-stakeholder approach. Internet governance, yes, we did a very good job, but not as good as global warming. So we should do some study on that one. And also some failure. Okay? Then can we apply any one of them or combination of them to some of those governance? And I guess we have to do this kind of a major exercise now. And eventually we have to come up. And then there's a new model, maybe substantially different from the, what we have now in internet governance. And we should be ready to adjust accordingly. That's the, and beyond, my PowerPoint is ready, so I'll give the, to be precise, the history of multi-stakeholder approach in the last 40 years, not 20 years. I started from 1970. And PowerPoint is there. And so this time I thought if somebody is going to cancel the lecture, I'm going to do it. So it was a sort of backup lecture, but since nobody canceled, so I'll do next year. Okay? And yes, please.
My name is Abdul Hamid from Jordan. Many thanks, Professor, for the valuable presentation. I have two comments. First, regarding the formal definition of the internet governance introduced by World Summit on the Information Society. And since the internet governance has been on the table over almost 15 years, I think each person has his or her understanding of the internet governance. I mean the engineers, the system analysts, the programmers, and the others. Second comment, I do believe that the cybersecurity governance interacts with the internet governance. Cybersecurity governance discussed in the context of the border economic and development aspects of the internet. And the open internet must be protected by the cybersecurity policy. Thank you.
So this is a comment, right? I don't have to reply. Oh, yes, please.
Okay. This is Babura Marial from Nepal. By profession, I am a lawyer. I have three issues here. First, in one of your slides, it says, do we handle human-centric areas similarly to technology-centric areas? What do you mean by similarly to technology-centric? That means technology-centric is more prioritized or something like that? Or what is the meaning of similarly to technology-centric? And another issue that I want to discuss here, you discuss about digital governance based on versus principle, norms, and laws. Laws are strict for the implementation side, and principles and norms are persuasive in that sense. What do you think, whether a law should come into force strictly, or principle or norms should govern this digital governance or cyberspace? And another thing that you replace your, as you said at the beginning, from cybersecurity to digital governance, I are we, or do we also think about replacing Internet Governance Forum to Digital Governance Forum or something like that? Do we need that kind of departure in that sense? Thank you.
Okay, first one is simple. I guess I didn't really clarify, and that's a very good those comment. So far, we have been doing a technology-centric governance, domain name. Actually, what we have done in the last 20 years is domain name. This is a purely technical issue, and we know how to do it. Then there's a danger. Let's apply this one to the, say, like privacy. Okay, we, the internet governance community, the technology-centric people, just naively, okay, we have internet governance. Why not apply this one to the human rights, such as privacy? Then my comment is, are we sure that such an approach will work? Well, we have to do the very different approach. Right now, like IGF is indecisive. They organize a workshop. Otherwise, they don't really do the they don't come up by any direction or anything. Okay, so the fundamental issue is we have been doing the technology-centric issues so far, domain name, and even like IoT governance. Okay, now we have to get into the human-centric area. And how do we do it? Of course, we are stakeholder. Okay, but I don't think we can dictate. And but again, making it as a new forum is not easy. So we just say like we don't know. Okay. Only thing is that UN is, yes, they are paying attention because it's their business, their charter. But that's not good enough. We need something more workable. Like for example, like Facebook does go to the UN to answer their inquiry? No, not yet. Like, can we have a multi-stakeholder approach, including a UN and Facebook? No. So we just don't know it. I don't think we know it yet, how to do it. And beyond, it's not my area. And these principles and the norms and the laws, it's very interesting. And we want to hear, especially today, on cybersecurity and the AI areas. Yeah, we all sort of come up with the same thing in the principles. Up to principle is okay, but beyond principle, internet governance is very much of those operational governance. So that we don't have to go through the norms or those. Okay, if we can agree on the operational issue, then it's done. But security, AI, they are not operational issue. So they have to go through the norms. Now seems they are stuck. And the AI, they are not even venturing into the norms yet. Principle, they still haven't agreed. We don't have any of those consensus document. And so the beyond, I guess, all here today. And then probably we may discuss end of today or tomorrow or whole week this week what we are finding out. Okay. And the IGF is doing those internet governance. So shall we have a digital governance forum or the AI governance forum or cyber security governance forum? I don't think we have that resource. What IGF can do is, okay, they cover AI and security. but sort of as a additional topic. They are not undertaking. What I'm saying is that can IGF undertake on an AI area or cybersecurity area to deliver something like a net, what we accomplish in a net mundial? Or no chance. And moreover, IGF, they don't have a resource. Do you know, they don't even have money for the secretariat. Any organization, you need the money to fund the security, no, secretariat. In the case of IGF, probably you need to say like $1 million or more. They don't have it. And making those a new one, you need much more, the resource. So that we have to expect something totally different group to come up something. And in the case of security area, yes, many people are discussing. And nothing is becoming anything tangible at all. And you may go to some of those meetings in security and how they are discussing on making those organization. Probably Enket can update more on this one. Did I comment?
Thank you.
Enough for you? Okay, yes, please.
Thank you. It's a very elaborate talk which you have given on the digital governance. My question is slightly variation to what Satish Babu asked, that we are going from internet governance to the IoT-based and then the AI-based governance. So whether the stakeholders, right, what stakeholders we were working till now, whether that will change to one more stakeholder, which is like AI or technology stakeholder, other than the existing stakeholders, and then how that will interplay in the entire global governance system, because there are no human interventions are required in certain kind of interventions by the like AI governance and IoT governance, how the privacy and the data protection kind of things will interplay. So my question is how this entire gamut of governance, where machines are going to overtake the human intelligence and those kind of things, so how it is going to play around in the digital governance, and what way we see the future of the, because whether we need a different kind of World Summit on Information Society which held in 2005, Tunis agenda, whether we need another more than a decade of the developments taking place in the world, whether we need another kind of World Summit based on the present realities and existence of the technologies. Thank you.
Actually, I'm not answering, okay? Enket and Danit, you can make a comment before giving a lecture if you want, okay? I'm not really monopolizing. I'm just commenting my own. This is my personal opinion from my experience. What would happen on a say like AI or cybersecurity and many areas? It's sort of a bottom up. If we come up with something very serious, and we have to have some kind of a top-down coordination, like internet governance. If we ever identify any particular area, then we can mobilize the people. Because otherwise, like a top-down approach, won't work. Because neither is a tremendous resource, and then easily you have to spend 10 years, won't work. And in the case of WISIS, I really want to see, before the crisis in security or AI is coming, having those global meeting to come up something tangible. So the may not be a solution. So that we can sort of move forward. So right now, it's pretty much of those discussion among those experts or small group or close group. But I guess that is okay to come up something tangible. But eventually, we have to have those open forum like a WISIS. And but the problem is the resource. And then another problem is the stakeholder. In this case, stakeholder in a negative sense. American government, US government, and the Chinese government, and their industry, they may oppose if they think it's not for their benefit. Then it won't take off. Simply that's happening in the security area. And so I'm not optimistic in this area, even though we think we should. But definitely IGF is not the place. It's just so small, so weak to handle those issues. We need something more, the one with a major commitment from the major country and the major companies. You can ask Google this afternoon. I mean, that's a major stakeholder in on both areas. Okay, and see, that's the reason why we decided not to record his session. If we record his session, he won't answer. But since we are now recording, probably he may comment his own idea. Yes, please do ask him. And then we may get some idea what Google or those major multinational in the USA are thinking.
In fact, they are the de facto governance, which is globally they are governing rather than individual countries. Governance is going to be, quite challenging now in the face of the social media and the Google kind of big players coming all over the world. And their population is, I think next to China or India, the Google subscribers and all that.
Yeah, Jake is in public policy at Google, and he's a lawyer, so that he can answer fairly professional way. And if we want to hear on how the government is behaving, Enquete is the best person, and probably she's going to give a lecture after the coffee break. Right?
Okay.
Right, Enquete? She said yes, so she will. Okay. Yes. Anything else?
Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Chand, thank you for an enlightening session and enlightening presentation. This is, for the record, Muhammad Shabir from Pakistan. I am member Board of Directors, APSIG Islamabad chapter. I have two questions. One is, you have talked about digital governance in the cyberspace. Being a student of international relations, I am interested that how this digital governance and or the governance in the cyberspace plays into the power politics of the states in the Westphalian system. I would like to hear your intake on that. You also referred in your presentation towards the, if I got you right, the gap between the developed and the developing world. So how this gap plays into the decision-making processes of the internet governance when it comes to the decision-making in the internet governance, how this gap plays into that in the governance system.
Can you give a more specific question so that I can comment better rather than the general? Just give us one example you are sort of wondering. Specific example.
You are talking of the Westphalian system, right?
Both.
Both. One is if we see that states have been human have been trying to govern oneself since the start. State is one example of the governance to bring the system into the anarchy that we have. But still, there is an anarchy in the system that we currently see, though we have the multilateral and bilateral agreements in the world. And there is this power politics. We see the power politics amongst the states fighting for the dominance, for the supremacy amongst themselves, and trying to get the influence over other states. So I am interested that how this power politics of the states that was used to be played on land, how this plays in the cyberspace. First one. Second is the disparities amongst the developed and the developing world. So there is a digital gap. Yes, we know there is the technological gap. Most of the technology is coming from the developed world to the developing side. This part of the world mostly is the beneficiary in terms of when we talk of the knowledge and the contribution into the knowledge. Yes, we have people coming up, but most of the knowledge is coming from the developed world. So my second question is that how this knowledge base, which is dominant or dominated by the Western kind of world, how this knowledge base or the knowledge supremacy plays into the internet governance when it comes to the decision-making processes.
Okay.
Or if it has any influence.
Okay, the first question is simple. Simple in a sense, simple to me. Enkedi is going to answer that one. I'm actually giving a lecture in the next one. Not just answering in 1 minute. She's going to give a 45 minutes lecture, and then she can answer all those questions you can raise. Okay, so that's my answer. The second one is tough. It's very tough, and we have to think about. Especially like I have a serious concern on AI, and in a lesser degree on IoT. Technology development is sort of pick up a momentum lately. Seems like technology has those development. It sort of sometimes go up and sort of become flat and again go up. Now is the time. Acceleration is taking place. Then it's a bad news for the developing country. For developed country, major corporation is a good news. There are so many technology they can take advantage and they can move fast. So they can preempt their industry globally. So what do? We just cry or just watch? Or if we can find some niche, or if we optimize our approach, we may make some tangible progress. Do you know, I'm going to close my comment since it's a coffee break. I thought about tomorrow afternoon we go to the Ayutthaya. This is answering to your question, okay? My answering, Ayutthaya. This is old capital of Thai. It's a very nice place to visit. Okay, and then it's very close from here. We don't have to go through the negotiate the Bangkok traffic. And the cost, Kai told me, it costs about $30 or $40 per person. Then I have a different idea. If we spend $30 or $40 per person, all of you, okay, Don't you think it's better if we give a gift? Give up those iTile. I'll give a gift. Okay, costs about the same amount, $30 to $40 from the Google. It's an intelligent speaker, microphone speaker. You can talk to them, and it will answer to you in any major language. That way you can get an idea what's the potential of those speaker and what's the danger of this technology. So that may be more productive. So that I was kind of wondering, the conclusion is very simple. I bought two. We'll give one to the best alumni, and then give another one to the best lecturer. So it's just two. And we go to the ITIA. And you make a judgment. We made a right judgment or we made a wrong judgment. Okay? Let's have a coffee break. Thank you very much.